All right, Georgia.
Hey, hey, hey.
How are you doing, man?
I am doing awesome. I cannot complain. I am grateful for another day,
Mhm.
grateful for an itinerary, grateful for the roof over my head. The list goes on and on and on and on. And I'm grateful for being here with you.
Yes, I'm grateful to be here with you too. And I love how you said the list goes on and on because that's exactly how I feel. It's just so many things to be thankful for. More things to be thankful and grateful for than there are things to complain about.
That's
Yeah,
right. Amen.
it's just about shifting the perspective. But I'm
Exactly.
so happy to be here with you. The first time I met you was when I went to your restaurant, Escoviches.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my family friend, Auntie Joan, who introduced me to it because she's like, some good food over there. So I was like, all right, let's go. I went there. It was good vibes, the music, right? And of course, the food is right. Hello.
Awesome.
And
Thank you. Thank you.
and you came over to our table and introduced yourself. And it was from that meeting that you mentioned that you were a coach. And I was like, because I had recently moved to Georgia at the time.
I remember you were on the patio.
Yes,
You were on the patio. Yes.
you have
Okay.
good memory. My God, today. So yeah, I was on the patio and I did say, oh, I'm a coach too. And that's when I'd recently moved to Georgia. So I was excited to know that there are coaches around.
Right.
And that's when I was like, what's your Instagram and so on and so forth. And then the rest is history. Then you held a networking event called
Mhm.
Redefining Her, which we will get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I got from it what I needed to get. And
Thank
now I'm
you.
here with you, chatting with you. So I am super, it's just funny how life works.
That's so true. Well, big ups to Auntie Joan. Tell her I say
Don't
thank you.
it. I'll tell her, I'll let her know. But that's my go-to place, man. All right. So today we're going to be talking about you, Miss Georgia Samuels. We're just going to be delving a little bit into what your story is. And then we'll talk a little bit more about what it means to brand yourself or to make a brand out of
Of
your own
yourself.
identity. Exactly. So I want to start off with so that the people can know who you are. Who is Georgia?
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So my name is Georgia Wolfe Samuels. My marriage name is Samuel. In terms of Georgia, if I think there are three adjectives, right, that describes me best. And ironically, the first letters of each adjective spells the word or an acronym as well, DIM, right?
Oh, nice.
The D is for daring. I am daring in terms of the risk that I take and the courage through which I approach my life missions. The
Mm,
I is for intentional. I am very intentional in my decisions, the things that I do, the things that I choose not to do, in
nice.
how I spend my time, what I choose to read, you name it. And then the M is for multi-hyphenate, which represents the different roles I play and that I operate in, for example, as a corporate executive for 20 plus years, as a mom, as a wife, as a restaurateur,
Mhm.
as a speaker, as an author, you name it.
Woo!
So that's what that represents. But
Yeah.
the acronym also represents my passion and the current calling on my life, which is to empower other women to stop dimming their lights and to show up authentically as their best self in all spaces, but
Mhm.
especially in their workspaces.
Oh, I love that. I want to backtrack a little bit on that. The intentional, right? Because you're saying that you're very intentional with how you spend your time. What is it that you read? Why are we this intentional about what you read? Something as simple as that. Like, what difference does it make to just always think twice about whether you should read this thing or not?
So there is a goal, right? There is an overall vision, right? And along with that vision are goals or objectives to accomplish that vision. And so it's important for me to be very intentional with what I do, especially what I read. I think for me to achieve that overarching vision and that overall goal for that I have for my life,
Mhm.
it is very important. Personal development and personal growth becomes very important. It's extremely critical. And so I'm very selective in the books that I choose to read. They tend to be, when I was young, I used to read a lot of like maybe novels and romance novels and stuff like that. I'm not saying anything is wrong with those. I'm just saying I have not read those in a while because a lot of my focus right now are on books that are geared towards personal development and personal growth.
I love that. So you have an overarching goal that is basically guiding the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly.
I love it because so many of us, we live life aimlessly. And I know that's how I used to live too, right? Because to me, it's just like, okay, I'm waking up in the morning. I just do the same thing. It's just routine, especially when I was still going to school. It was just me following the schedule that the school would provide for me. So there was no overarching goal until I graduated from college and I realized I needed to create my own schedule. I was like, wait a minute now.
Nobody's babying you around anymore.
You say what? Say again?
You're not babying you around anymore. Now you're out in the world. You're responsible for your life now. So
you're responsible for your life. And it can be such a daunting realization, but it can be less daunting if, as you say, you give yourself an overarching goal. And I guess from that overarching goal can be sub goals, right? That are easier to attain, and you can divide it into short-term and long-term and decide on what practical steps you can take towards getting there, right?
Exactly.
So I absolutely love that, which makes so much sense. I also want to talk to you about why is it so important for you to encourage women not to dim their lights? Why is that a passion of yours? Would you say it is a passion of yours, and why would you consider it as such?
It is a passion of mine. It is my current calling, the current assignment on my life.
Love it.
And I think how I can explain it best is by maybe giving some background context in terms of how I got here, right? So I am currently in a season where I am intentional about embracing my authentic self. And my intention is to show up as my best self each and every day. Honestly, some days,
be a little tight.
Yeah, be a little tight. But I'm very, I want to show up as my best self each and every day in each and every space. But it was not always that way. And so a few years ago, I experienced what I called a rock bottom moment that became a very transformative point for me. I coined that season my redefining season. Shameless plug, it's all written in my book, Redefining Her.
Okay.
So during that season, I was navigating a very difficult season in my marriage. And I was also experiencing burnout from working a lot of hours. And then add to that, my day-to-day responsibilities as a mom, as a wife. And so one night, I had an argument with my hubby that triggered some latent, unprocessed, and compartmentalized feelings and beliefs, feeling like I just was not enough. The next thing I recall is being on the bathroom floor of my master bathroom, feeling discouraged, depressed, and fighting for my will to live. I sought help from, and then she's still a current, very close friend, actually. And she referred me to a program at our church called Forward. That is a program that, it's like a 4-week program, hour and a half each Sunday. And it's just pretty much getting you in tune with God, right? So on the first Sunday in the chapel, it was just me and God during that service. I was complaining to God about my husband, God, fix my husband. He's being mean to me. It's some bad stuff. And I heard God's voice. He said that that is not where I need to focus. I didn't need to be focused on what my husband was doing and what he wasn't doing. And then he began to show me that how I was reacting to the argument, how I was, because I wasn't responding for sure, right? So how I was reacting to the argument, and ironically, how I was showing up in other areas of my life was less than powerful.
Gotcha.
And that I was operating in that realm because of how I defined myself.
Ooh.
He then took me back to the moment as a 4-year-old little girl, which is where I created that less than powerful belief. He showed me clearly the scene where I was sitting on the guest room bed in my maternal grandparents' guest room, watching my mother get dressed for her trip back to New York. My mother had abandoned me 2 years prior, and I had returned to Jamaica to bury her parent. So as I sat on the bed watching her brush her hair, getting ready to depart, she had an antique brush and comb set that she was using. And I remember it was silver, had like silver swirls on it. And so I wanted to hold on to it. And so I asked her for it. She replied no, and instead gave me a travel-sized bottle of Kerry lotion. So in that moment is when I told myself the lie, right? That I wasn't enough, hence why, or I wasn't worthy. Hence why my mom decided not to give me that brush and comb set. She would leave the Highland, and I did not hear from her again until I was 23 years old. And all that time, I told myself that I wasn't enough, hence why she did not take me with her, and why I did not hear from her or see her again up to that point. But I had a name for her. I called that was the mini me. I called her Half Pint. Yeah, you were familiar with our, renowned reggae artist. I love him to death. Level the Vibes. That's one of my favorites. And so I learned as a youngster that he garnered that name from his stature, right? He wasn't of the traditional height.
Right.
And so he's short. And so I looked at the name Half Pint to mean less than whole. And so that definition, that meaning informed my belief, right? And would impact how I was showing up in my workspace and in my relationships, showing up small, dimming my light, not believing in myself, which ultimately became my personal brand, right? That is until one morning, still during that redefining season, when God literally woke me up and ushered me into a higher perspective of myself. I literally woke up. It was the most romantic thing ever. I woke up to the words, "You are more than enough." In the world of metrics, half pint is equivalent to a full cup.
Okay.
That was a drop the mic moment for me.
Okay.
Then I have showed up differently in my spaces, and I have embraced the calling to help other women do the same, to reclaim their identity and show up as their best self, right?
That gave me such goosebumps. The mere fact that, because I feel like God allowed you to view yourself as a half pint, and that he was waiting for that moment where you would come up and I bet he was just like, wait till she find out what half pint means.
I remember I got up and I was like, what? Not I don't believe him, I remember reaching my cell phone and I'm like, metric, half pint,
full cup. So listen, the same name, but different perspective now.
Different perspective.
So the first time you considered yourself a half pint was when you looked at it as less than whole, right?
Yes.
And that was sparked by something very simple that your mom did. She had a brush set that she just didn't want to part with.
Yes.
And she also didn't take you to foreign with her. Where did she go?
She went to New York.
To New York. She didn't take you to New York with her. So those two instances or those two incidents caused you to feel like, oh, I'm not enough for her to give me that really nice brush. And I'm not enough for her to take me with her to New York. I must be that half pint. Exactly. So that incident is what sparked that. And you held on to that.
Yes. And it's not like I was showing up every day, walking around and saying, oh, my name is half pint. It formed that internal belief.
Okay.
That was then informing the thoughts, that was fueling the habit, right?
Absolutely.
That's what it did. You
so
understand?
what? Yeah.
And then the other thing I want to add too, to connect that too, while I was in the forward program, I remembered Pastor Rouse came in one time and he made the statement, he says, as children, we are very good receptors, but not very good interpreters because we lack the experience and the knowledge to really interpret situations. And so as children, we don't know the full story. We don't know all the sides. And so, we tend to form the story because your mind always needs a story.
Yeah.
Your mind needs a complete story to put something to rest. Okay. And
Right.
so if you don't get the full story, it's going to fill in the gaps. So we have to be mindful how those gaps are filled.
Yes.
Right. So Pastor Raul shared, he shared that statement that children are very good receptors, but very poor interpreters. And that says wonders.
That is so true. It's ironic that it is at that stage when we're not good interpreters that we're most impressionable.
Exactly.
So that's why it's so important that a child is raised in an environment that feeds them in a healthy way.
Exactly.
That's so good.
Exactly.
So
I think I have a quote in Redefining Her that said, and I forgot who said it, but it says, children are like cement.
I was expecting sponge.
Like wet cement.
Okay, I was expecting sponge. I never heard cement.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true, but like wet cement, where impressions are formed.
Yes.
Easily.
Yes. So I want to talk about the two perspectives of half pint, right? And the habits that would flow from each of these perspectives. So let's focus first on the half pint habit. And the half pint that I'm referring to is the one where you thought it was less than a whole. So what were those less than whole habits that you were portraying? Because you said that perspective that you had and that belief of who you thought you were at the time, it was affecting your actions, right? Yes. It was affecting your habits. So what did those less than whole habits look like?
It was all around. Let's talk relationships. I would find myself in abusive relationships, and I would stay there too long because I didn't necessarily value myself. When it came to like my workspace, I would play small. I wouldn't. First of all, when it came to even applying for a job, I would not apply for a job until I felt like I could do everything on that list, right? And even then, if I would feel on one side that I could do everything on that list, but then I would still not raise my hands, feeling afraid that, I may sound stupid or I may not get it quite right. I remember being in meetings, even in my, within my public accounting career, where I'm the only woman in the room, or if I'm not the only woman, I'm the only African-American in the room, or sometimes both African-American, the only African-American and woman. And so I was intimidated, right? I felt like what I had to say, my perspective, my opinions were not necessarily of value. And sometimes, someone else would raise their hands and give the answer. And I was like, myself under the table, like, Georgia, you knew it, you knew it. But I did not raise my hand and I did not use my voice. I did not speak. So,
got you. Yeah. And what are some whole cup habits that
girl, hey,
talk about it?
The intention, right? Since, it's ironic because since that season, still during the redefining season, God made me sit still for a minute, right? Because I think he had some stuff to still reveal to me. And during that season of stillness, is where Escoviches was born, actually.
Your restaurant, your Jamaican food restaurant.
Caribbean, yes. The legendary island cuisine. That's where it was born. And so I was able to, with my husband, come together and, build out that restaurant, leverage, I love interior design. So that was, one of my skill sets to help design the place, to, put up the money and, really invest into that project.
I'm gonna cut you off a little bit because let me just say that interior design is what is up. Me and my friends, we are big on the interior. Anytime we go somewhere, we're oh, that's some nice furniture right there. She used the velvet with the army green color, and that's nice with the copper accent. I love it. So when I would go, because I was first on the patio, the first time I went to your restaurant, so I didn't know what inside looked like. But the last time you saw me at your restaurant, I was inside. And the furniture is like the different colors and they were warm tones. So it was right up my alley. Personally, I love it. But it really, whether you like warm tones or not, it gives off a very classy, cozy vibe.
Thank
right?
you. Thank you for
Yes,
that. Well,
girl.
that's all in the process of changing, by the way, because
Ooh,
the wear and tear over the last 3 years, and we have actually changed out the blue island. So the blue
okay.
island has changed out to leather, and
Mm,
the other sides, just what's going on right now in the nation in terms of shortages and supplies. It's taken a while for them to get the material to do the rest of it. So we'll
got
be
you.
eventually changing out, keeping the color scheme the same,
Mhm.
but just changing the materials.
Love it. Sounds good. So that intent, so that whole cup habit is where the I in dim came into play.
Yes.
That intentionality,
The
right?
D and the I,
The D and the
the
I, the
daring,
daring.
being brave, doing brave moves, and then being intentional as well.
I love it. And the reason why I wanted to just kind of flesh out what the less than whole cup habit look like versus what the whole cup habit looks like is because I want people, myself included, to really see if we have any of those habits on either side. So we can decide if we are, and be honest with ourselves, right? If
Yes.
we are operating in that half cup or less than full cup way, or if we're operating in that whole cup way. So based on what you said, now we have an idea of how we're operating. So we got to do that reflection now and say, all right,
Exactly.
how can I shift from believing that I'm not enough to believing that I am a whole cup? Come on
Or a
now.
full
That
cup.
word, that word whole gets me every time. So you were mentioning the thing that sparked you're just sitting on the bathroom floor one day after having that discussion with your husband, and you just kind of fighting for your life. You mentioned the words unprocessed and compartmentalized thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
So these are things that you had in your heart or in your mind, and in just chilling in your mind in a little box somewhere, in a file somewhere,
Mhm.
and you hadn't really dug through it. You hadn't really processed it. And I know that there are a lot of people who they're just afraid of digging through that unprocessed thought because it's unprocessed for a reason.
Oh yeah. Because it
Sometimes
hurt.
we're not aware. Sometimes we're not aware of the fact that it's unprocessed, so we're just oblivious to it. But other times, it's like this demon looming over us that we just want to keep ignoring with other things. We're like, okay, let me just do this and ignore this thing, but it's still
Yes.
very much there. So, how did you come to the point where you were like, okay, this is unprocessed. I will not be afraid to face it, and I'm going to face it now? Or were you aware that of these unprocessed thoughts?
I knew of the unprocessed thoughts, and I did not want to deal with them because they hurt.
Of course.
And I quite frankly did not know how to deal with them. Okay. And so I would find myself having habits that I classify them as sabotaging habits that were more just so symptoms, right? I will shop a whole lot. I'll go to the mall just to pacify those feelings, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I still shop, but now I just shop for different reasons, right? I don't go to the mall to make me feel better. I know, although retail therapy is good. But excessive retail therapy can cost you in other ways, right? And can really block your progress, especially if you have a certain goal and vision for yourself. It can really cripple that and derail those plans. And so I found myself with, these sabotaging habits, trying to cope and not deal with those thoughts. But when it got to the point where I was on that bathroom floor, I was at a rock bottom moment. There was nowhere else to go. I had to, it was a full-fledged moment. Girl, you're going to do this. You're going to deal with this.
And so what are practical ways in which you started dealing with this? You mentioned this workshop that was happening at a church that your friend invited you to. What other thing did you have to do on your own and or by
I was
yourself?
also a member of that church. So when she recommended the program, I remember I initially thought it was maybe like a membership program because I wasn't a member of the church yet. I was attending every week, but I was not yet a member. And so when she mentioned the program, I was like, forward, that sounds like why she tell me to do a membership program? I need to talk to somebody. So I went to the church, spoke with a counselor, and the counselor also told me about the program. So I was like, okay, let me do this program. But I say that all to say that the number one step for me and the most pivotal part of my healing process was literally reaching out to God and allowing him to just take control of my thought process and to just take control of my life at that moment, right? It's the number one, the most pivotal part of my healing process. And then you add to that the introspection that came along with that process, right? Trusting God and doing that mind work to really put things into their real perspective and to really think through what is that big vision for my life? You know, what is my purpose? If you ask, he will show you, right? And then add to that the therapy, right? I had a therapist that kind of helped me to navigate and to deal with a lot of those issues, right? To help me talk through them, to help me to put them in their proper perspective, right? Because I still had to process it. So once those doors were open, it was flooding out. And at the time, I remember initially I was still at work, right? So I was still working. I was working on an IPO engagement at work, which meant, you know, the client I was working on was about to put their stocks up for trade on the New York Stock Exchange. And so there was a lot of hours involved in working, and, you know, it was heavy. So I needed a therapist. I needed someone to talk to help me navigate and put, you know, what I was going through into perspective.
Love it. So your solution was God and therapy.
Yep. God, introspection, and therapy. Oh, that's an acronym. Get it?
Uh-oh.
Get it.
It's true. That's true. You can start use that. That's something now. They'll be like, if you go get it right there. I love it. So that introspection is really just self-reflection, right? And just allowing yourself to search your own mind and your own intentions and your own beliefs and perspectives. So I guess one way in which I imagine that happening is through journaling, which I always push for. I'm just a big stickler for that journaling thing because I find it for me to be so therapeutic. Right. I have a therapist of my own too, because I need that professional guidance, that professional help. And I have God as well. And the introspection, the self-reflection is done through journaling. And not a lot of people like to write necessarily. So for those who don't necessarily want to get into journaling, what does introspection or doing that work of introspection look like?
I mean, it's spending time with yourself and your thoughts and thinking about your thoughts, if that makes sense.
Thinking about your thoughts. I like it.
Your thoughts. And why are you thinking that thought? Like, what is the underlying belief behind that thought? What is the storyline? You know what I mean? It's really like just taking time and being quiet, being still. A lot of us are just so busy, and we can't help it at times. We're mothers, we're daughters, we have responsibilities, taking care of loved ones. We have to work to earn a living. We have chores, there's just so much demand on our time. And it's very hard at times to be still, but being still is so important. And, just being still and doing that introspective work, it is extremely important.
Love it. And now I'm remembering the adjective iridescent. Right? Based on our last conversation, you mentioned that word and what it meant to you. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, so iridescence. So when I was part of that 4-week program, that forward program, I think this may have been the second Sunday. So the first Sunday is when he revealed to me the whole history of where I first told myself that lie. The second Sunday, I think, is where he showed me my name, the name he calls me, which is iridescence. And I remember saying, like, what does that mean? I looked up in the dictionary, but it's like, it wasn't making sense to me. Like, I know what it means, but it just wasn't making sense to me. And I feel like over time, the meaning in terms of my relation to God and what my purpose here is on earth is, it's really connecting me to him to show that, you know, if you think about iridescence, it's kind of a reflection of its surroundings, right? A reflection of the light. You know, and so if I am showing up in this world reflecting him, reflecting his qualities, his character, right? Being open and transparent and vulnerable with others, how the impact he has had in my life. To me, that is the meaning of iridescence. And I feel like more and more of what the responsibilities are and what that means in terms of, you know, my purpose is it's being unraveled as time goes on, right? I still feel like there's more for me to unravel, for me to learn in terms of what that means.
Love
right?
it.
Yeah, but in summary, he told me that that's my name. My name is Iridescence.
I
He
love
doesn't
it.
call me Georgia. He calls me Iridescence.
I love it. So as you're telling me the story, I'm thinking it sounds so romantic, kind of like how you described, you know, the conversation between you and God before no, which I think is so interesting. I want to talk about the whole branding self or making a brand out of your own identity. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Making a, well, in summary, our personal brand, right, is it's a mirror that reflects how we feel about ourselves.
Okay.
So who you are and who you are being, which is two slightly different questions,
okay,
is all connected to your identity. And your personal brand then becomes that vehicle, that mirror that reflects what's going on the inside of you. What do you believe about yourself, right? It's also that vehicle that is going to connect you with your calling, right? If you think about relationships, you think about business, you think about everything that we do on a day-to-day basis, it requires connection with someone else outside of ourselves, right? And so our personal brand then becomes that determining factor of whether other people want to connect with us, right? How we make them feel. Do we make them feel uplifting? Do we make them feel confident? Do we make them feel special? Or do we just have this nasty attitude that, you know, really turn them off and they don't really want to deal with us? So I'm saying, so the personal brand becomes that vehicle through which you then get to execute your purpose through, you know, that shows how you reflect on who you are internally, right? It is that vehicle that connects you with others. There's just so many different aspects of our personal brand that on a day-to-day basis, we really don't think about.
Yeah. How much of your business brand you would say is your personal brand? Are the two intertwined?
They are intertwined. They are intertwined, and I do not strive to separate them because I want to show up authentically. You may not get all of me in one scenario, right? Because some things may be reserved for at home. But to me, they're intertwined. So I don't try to separate them because I'm one person.
Right. So each of your business represents you.
Correct.
Got you. Okay. And I would think in creating this personal brand, in knowing what this brand is, you have to know yourself. And I think a lot of knowing yourself is tied to what your core values are. What are your non-negotiables, right? So how did you come to identify, or at least at first tell me, what is the importance of having those core values when it comes to identifying what your personal brand is? And then afterwards, we can talk about how you came to discover what your core values are.
Yeah, so our core values is a part of what makes us who we are, right? There are traits or qualities that represent our highest priorities, what's important to us, what's our non-negotiables. You know, they become our guiding compass through which we make decisions, or it should be, because not a lot of people do this. Some people make decisions just because of what they feel like they should do, or it's being dictated by somebody else. But I believe that our decisions should also, you know, our core values should be compass in terms of guiding our decisions, right? And so if I was to think about my personal core values, I think two of them that are very high on the the list for me are integrity and freedom. And so if I am making a decision, I want to make sure that it's the most integrous decision, right? It is not demeaning in any way. It represents who I am as a person and how I want other people to feel. When it comes to freedom, my decisions should allow me the freedom that I aspire for, right? So, I remember one of my coaches was arguing me about the word freedom, that it's not a core value. And I said, I beg to differ, because, it's very important to me and it impacts the decisions that I make. If I am going to take on a business opportunity, one of the first questions I'm going to ask myself is, how is this going to impact my time? Do I have the capacity to do it? How is it going to impact me or deter me from potentially from doing some of the things that I like to do, the things that fuel my soul? So I'm going to weigh those decisions against my core value. So in that case, my core value then becomes my guiding compass in terms of whether I, decide to do something or not.
Yeah. And I think that connects back to what we mentioned before about not living aimlessly, because I think one way in which we live aimlessly is to just have our decisions be influenced by whatever happens around us. Like whatever situation unfolds in our space influences our decisions. And so that's why you will have some of us just acting out, right? Then and there, some girl come and disrespect me. She are gonna know today who Shanese is. You know what I mean? As opposed to thinking about that integrity, that's my core value, right? And that freedom, that's my core value. And then letting your decisions be influenced by that. So instead of being reactive to whatever is in your environment or whatever situation has, happened in your surrounding, you're instead making your decisions only based on the fact that, okay, I want to maintain my integrity. I want to represent myself well. I don't want to defame my own character. Right. And so that goes back to the whole, I have a goal that I'm moving towards and I'm not living aimlessly. So that makes me more intentional.
No, exactly. But not lie to Shanice, sometimes it's hard when them really try you.
Translation. At times it can be challenging. When the people, they try you.
When they try you.
Right. It can be. And so when it is hard like that, what do you tell yourself? Do you have USA moments that helps you center yourself and get calm again and remember your core values in that time? Or in the moment when people really are trying you, you're not thinking anything about core values. It's like,
You're not thinking, and no, I am not thinking about core values. There's one sentence I always have to say to myself: Georgia, you're not a puppet.
That's good.
Do not allow them to pull you. And then I would whoosah and keep moving.
That's good.
It's hard. I said, you're not a puppet.
Yeah.
And I visualize that puppet, on a string. That a lot of times helps me to just like, yeah, this ain't worth it.
Yeah. And that speaks to your core value, that is freedom.
Yeah.
So it still go back to that. So, you still are in an indirect way reminding yourself of that particular core value that you have to stick with.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. So I remember saying, and I did want to mention this, something that I grabbed from our last convo, that you have to decide to be in control of the conversations you have with yourself and who to involve in that conversation. And that came from this whole, okay, you thinking about how to talk to yourself about who you are, right? Because you can't really listen to anybody's opinion about who you are, because people will try to tell you who you are. But as you're trying to form this personal brand, you have to be honest with yourself with who you are, but be conscious of who it is you're inviting in this honest conversation with you. So you need time with yourself.
Yes.
We also need time with people, but it has to be the right people. And it's like you kind of have to monitor what they're saying as well, because sometimes the right people can say the wrong things.
Exactly. And sometimes they mean well. Sometimes the right people mean well, but they don't necessarily have the insight as to where you're going, what your calling is, and what God has planned for you. So sometimes they'll give you advice that's meant to protect you, but it's actually derailing you.
I love it.
And so it's very important to have that one-to-one relationship with your creator for him to tell you exactly what you need to do.
And who you are.
And who you are. The answer don't always come the same time. Sometimes I ask questions and it takes forever for him to answer me, and he answer me in the weirdest times.
What did the voice of God sound like when he told you what your name was?
All right, so I had somebody ask me this question the other day, because sometimes I would distinguish between Holy Spirit and God. And they said to me, Georgia, how you know when God's speaking to you versus Holy Spirit?
Oh, that's funny. Good question.
I said to that person, I said, it's the feeling that I get. It's like very hard to describe. But the best way I think I can describe it is when it's a Holy Spirit kind of giving you that nudge, right? That's that sense of discernment. It feels like, it's like, think about you walking into Centennial Park, and you know where the waterfalls are, and you know the waterfalls sprout up, periodically. For me, Holy Spirit becomes that fountain where it's like that advice, that nudge is like the water springing up right out of the fountain. Whereas when it's God directly speaking to me, he tends to speak to me either in dreams or literally I hear his voice. But it's most of the time I hear his voice. And it's more directional. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like it comes this way versus up. It's the weirdest thing ever. I don't believe I'm articulating it the best way.
Yeah.
But it's the best way that I can.
So the feeling of the Holy Spirit speaking to you is like from the inside coming out.
Yes.
And the Father, God the Father.
Yes.
When he speaks to you, it feels maybe more like someone on a throne above you that is depositing something from above.
Yes.
There we go. Okay. Yes. Very interesting.
I find that, like, sometimes, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And I find that the conversation is very direct, but loving, like non-judgmental, just so loving. Shanese, I don't know. I don't think I'm articulating it the best way, but it's the best way that I can right now, based on the words that I have. What that, connection is like.
But that feeling.
You want to know what's ironic? I did not grow up believing in God.
You did not?
I did not grow up believing in God, because the whole thing with my family, the trauma experience, my mom abandoning me. And did you go to school in Jamaica? High
school.
All right. You know what pitting I mean. And they used to have this saying, like, for example, if somebody wasn't that appealing to the eye, they had this saying, if pretty looks did a give away, when pretty looks did a give away, you were at the back
of line.
Okay. And so for me, I used to get, I think in my last conversation with you, I told you about my birthmark in my face. And so they would tease me about my birthmark. They would tease me about my last name being Wolf. And then just the dynamics of my family, as well as some of the traumatic events that I experienced, I kind of felt like God left me at the back of the line. And I didn't believe in him. I didn't believe in him, or I believe it. It's strange enough. I believe that a higher power existed. I just didn't think he was for me.
Okay. And
then I got to maybe about age 20, and somehow my belief transformed into, okay, yeah, him exists. I guess him is somewhat for me because I'm still somewhat okay. But as long as I'm not stealing and cheating, then, I don't need to fellowship. I don't need to read the word of God. I don't need to do any of those things as long as I'm not stealing. That was that perspective. And then I remember I had 2 miscarriages. And that made me feel even worse in terms of who I was as a woman. And I felt even more less than, if that's a terminology. And I remember I asked, I said, just give me a baby girl. Give me a baby girl. And through that process, my relationship with him got better. He gave me the baby girl.
Who looked just like you.
Who looked just like me. Poor thing. Everywhere she goes, everybody, you know, where's your mom? There's like, they recognize her just by, you know, the resemblance. They just know who she is.
So that made you feel like, okay, maybe this higher power is for me.
Yes. And that's when, you know, my relationship, I got baptized when my daughter was just before she turned 1.
I love that. That's a beautiful story. The way how you talk about God now, you would think it was a lifetime relationship. But funny enough, I've been a Christian since I was the age of 9, but it really wasn't until 18, 19 when I migrated to the US that I built a relationship with him. Because, and it's the fact that the US culture was so vast, it scared me into staying close to God, because I was like, I don't want to get swept away by the current of this culture. So let me just stay close, just really out of, I guess, fear or intimidation of the vastness of the culture. And that's where the relationship happened. It was a whole connection at this point, and not just, oh, God is there, let me pray, our Father who art in. No, you know what I'm saying? It was a connection. So I love how you speak to this relationship and the feeling that is undeniable, inexplicable, but undeniable. I love that. We're going to transition a little bit to mission statement, because one thing I learned from this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is that the writer, he merges the mission statement with the core values, right? Saying that they're very much connected. So I ended up doing, because you know how businesses, organizations, they have their big mission statement that helps them remember why they're doing what they're doing, and it helps them on a day-to-day basis in their decision-making process. But there's such a thing as a personal mission statement, which helps you, which influences the decisions that you make as much as the core values do. So if you were to have a personal mission statement, what would that be?
For my personal mission statement is, you know, I think I've alluded to it before, is to be my best self each and every day, being intentional, not playing small, operating in line with my purpose. And then, you know, expressing that outwardly, right? With my mission to empower other women to be and show up as their best self. I don't believe we exist as an island. I believe we are all here for a purpose. And that purpose is connected to making the world a better place and to creating progress for the world, right? So outside of ourselves. And so even though I have my personal mission statement, that mission statement is intertwined with my purpose and what I have as my outward mission as well.
You alluded to a physical attribute of yours that, would you say you didn't like it right away, or you didn't love it right away, which was the birthmark?
Correct. Right?
And as I'd asked you in our first conversation, which I think is so cool to mention now, is how do you accept that part, or how do you love that part of you that you don't like, whether it be a physical attribute or an internal attribute or trait, something about you that you just don't favor?
You know what? I think
in this process of knowing yourself and loving yourself, how do you get over that? I guess you call it hump.
Over that hump. I think once you have that authentic definition of who you are, you tend to worry less about the things that you like or don't like. Because each of us have things that we don't like about ourselves. We're each, you know, coming into tune with who you are authentically doesn't mean that you're not trying to evolve or to achieve other things in your life. It just means that you're enough as you are, but yes, you can still reach and achieve, you know, trying to attain other goals. And sometimes those goals are connected to things that we may not like about ourselves. But I think what's really important is that we come to terms with what we can change versus what we cannot change. You understand? My birthmark, I cannot change it. Yes, kids used to make fun of me. I think, you know, it's the attention that it garnered, and then the reaction from other people that made me not like my birthmark. Nothing wrong with my birthmark, right? If I'm going to do a photo shoot, then I'll put some makeup on it if I choose to.
If you choose.
If I choose to. But at the end of the day, my birthmark doesn't make me any more or less of a person.
Okay.
You understand? I am who I am regardless of this birthmark.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we all come to terms with who we truly are and recognize that who we are has more to do with the inside of us, our soul, our spirit, our intentions, our integrity, our purpose, than it does with the outward layer of ourselves, because the outward layer of ourselves can change as moments go by.
So you're saying once you really find out who you are, the other things grow strangely dim.
Yes.
They're all of a sudden not that important.
Yes.
And so if you still are finding those unimportant things to be important, then you probably have not discovered who you truly are.
Yes.
Because if it's not,
yes, but I want to caution as well, right? So let me use an example. Let's say, for example, you know, you're coming to terms to who you are, but you still don't necessarily like your physical weight. You would like to lose weight to become healthier. Not because you have that goal mean to lose weight, mean that that doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't really come to terms with who you are. You just want to be a better you, a healthier you, right? Maybe when you lose the weight, then you have more endurance to do the work that you're called to do.
Right.
So I want to caution there that not because you are attempting to change certain features or certain things doesn't necessarily mean you're not in tune with who you are. I just wanted to caution that.
Right. But it just goes to what is motivating you to make that change. Is it a healthy motivation, or is it inspired by just the mere fact that you don't love yourself or know yourself enough, and that is what is affecting, you know, this desire or lack thereof, you know, for a change. How to know when you can or can't control a part of your story? Because some parts of your story, like if you're dealing with trauma, somebody has done wrong to you, your parent has done wrong to you, you can say, okay, you know what daddy did or what mommy did that time 29 years ago really affected me in this way, and that's what's caused me to look at life in this way and this and that. But at what point do you stop blaming mommy and daddy and decide, okay, I can control my perspective, I can control the outcome? Because I do know that people have the tendency to play victim. We just get comfortable in the victim mode. You might have trauma, right? And yes, the trauma that you've experienced influences your perspective today, which ultimately leads to how you act, how you lead your lifestyle. But at what point was that turning point where you're like, okay, this is totally within my control. I can't blame mommy and daddy anymore. I have to change. I have to control that.
I would say, number one, we can't change our past, right? Our past is our past. You can't change anything about it. But I have rules of engagement that I leverage in my coaching program with my clients, and just anyone that I'm mentoring that, you know, this issue may come up where we, you know, are still stuck in our past or stuck in our experiences. And we use those experiences to define who we are. And so that those rules of engagements are: one, you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts do not define you, right? We should aim to be the perceiver of our thoughts rather than the subject of our thoughts. Rule number two, your wounds should inform you, not define you. Your wounds are a part of your story, but they do not define who you are as a person. Okay? And number three, you are not your experiences. how you interpret your experiences then becomes you. So every experience, whether it's good or bad, it's a part of your journey. So be mindful of how you interpret your experiences, because they are just experiences. They are moments in time. You should just take the time to get the nuggets, get the gems, because even if it's a bad experience, trust me, it's connected to your purpose. Okay? Your experiences are not who you are. A lot of times, and I did this obviously, right? I use my experience to define who I was. You know, my mom didn't give me the brush and comb because, hey, I'm not worthy. So that means I am not worthy. I'm not a worthy individual. I'm less than whole.
Very interesting.
And that's not true.
Yeah. Be the perceiver of your thoughts and not the subject. My God, today, it's so true. And this whole just becoming aware of your thoughts is an exercise that I'm learning to make a habit. To become aware of it. Don't become your thoughts, become aware. So when a thought comes, whether it be violent or something that's just make your skin crawl because you're like, ooh, why would I think that? Don't judge. That's judgment right there. Don't say, why would you think that? What is it? Because that's you now starting to think that your thoughts are you.
Yeah.
So when you start judging like that, stop it and say, oh, I noticed that I'm thinking that thought. Interesting. And maybe that's where you can go into the introspection and say, why am I thinking that thought? And the whole process should be non-judgmental.
So do you remember from the brunch? Do you remember from the brunch the acronym ICE?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So when we have a wound, right? Sometimes, what's the first thing they tell you to do to the wound?
Ice it.
To ice it, to stop it from expanding. And so the ICE is an acronym, right? In terms of when you have that thought that, it's very important that you, number one, identify, right, the thought, the belief that's supporting that thought. Identify the belief, challenge the belief, and the event that is triggering that belief.
Okay.
Two parts, it's the ice, but in this scenario, it's just the first ice. So you identify the thought,
identify the belief.
Identify the belief that's supporting the thought.
Okay.
Challenge that belief. Do you have the full story? Do you have the full picture? Do you have the different perspectives of everyone that was involved, the different scenarios, right? And then the event. Now is, what is the event that was supporting that belief? And then, if you could attach a different meaning to it.
So all of ICE would go under the perceiver of your thoughts.
Yes.
Love that.
So you ice it.
Stop
the wound from expanding.
Redefining versus redefined. Right? We spoke a little bit more about that. What does that mean, that ING?
So redefining, like I intentionally, the book was titled Redefining Her. And the ING was intentional because I believe it's an ongoing process. You should forever be evolving. And as you're evolving, you're continuously redefining yourself, right? Ironically, redefining is an acronym as well. With the R, of course, being, reframing your mindset, which I think is critical, fundamental, foundational to really being able to show up as your best self.
We discussed a little bit how to make your brand impact people. So after you have done the introspection, you talk to God and you go to therapy and you have come closer to defining who you are, which is an ongoing process, but you're a far cry from where you started, right? So you have created this personal brand, which if it is an ongoing thing to identify and fully know yourself, then the brand, I would guess the personal brand is also going to be shifting and changing, right? Yeah. How do you make that ever shifting, ever changing brand that's growing as you're growing? How do you make that brand impact people?
Okay. In terms of, first of all, I think our personal brand, the intention is to impact others, right? And of course, I have another acronym because that's the nerd in me. The impact is, what is that invaluable influence that you have, that invaluable influence that comes from your solution, that then maximizes the position or the perspective or the actions of those that you connect with, and that then allows them to thrive. It pushes them in a more progressive direction. So the I is for that invaluable influence, the M is for maximize, the P, position, perspective, A, action, C, connections, and T, that allows them to thrive, right? And your connections in this scenario could be your clients, could be your co-worker, it could be your leadership, it could be anyone that you connect with. Your purpose is to allow them to thrive. You know, Jamaican, we're gonna mess up that.
Thrive.
Thrive. I'm trying not to, my hardest not to mess up the H, but it is what it is. Yeah, so, you know, our purpose, our personal brand is to allow them. So a part of our personal brand is who we are, as well as there's the aspect in terms of the solution that we were purposed to unleash, right? And together that then helps those who we connect with to thrive. It, you know, it has impact on them. And so I think it's very important to be able to have that impact. You have to be clear on who you are at each step of the journey. At each step of the journey, as you're evolving, be clear on who you are, be clear on the solutions that you offer, and show up. That's how you have impact. You show up.
Love it, love it, love it. And I love how you mentioned connection. I was thinking about networking and how we tend to, when we're thinking of networking, we just want to think of who to connect with that would benefit our business or benefit our program or whatever it is, whatever initiative we have going on. But, you know, as we mentioned in our last conversation, the importance of not just wanting something out of someone, but caring about the person, right? Wanting to connect with them, meaning you're wanting to go beyond you serve me type of thing, and think of how you can serve that person as well. And how to maintain that connection, as you mentioned, is to build lunch dates, like be intentional about times that you spend with that person, right? How often are you meeting? And so I just definitely wanted to push that out there, put that out there so that, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs who are looking to network will remember that we are all people. And one of our core, what would you say, like core values as a human being is this sense of belonging. Or one of the necessities.
It's a need. Yeah.
It's a need. It's an actual need. We need to feel cared for. We need to feel like we belong to a group. And so when you're going in, you're not just going in with this, I'm going to be served type of thing. And this person has money, so let me, you know, make him or her interested in being an investor. Think about how to connect with the individual, like a fellow human being, like how you would want to be connected with.
Yeah.
Out of interest, I want to know what kind of books you're reading right now, outside of Redefining Her.
Well, I'm not reading Redefining Her. I probably do need to go back and read it from time to time. But I don't know if you're like me, who you may have multiple books that you're reading at the same time.
Yes, ma'am.
I have that problem. And so I have one book on my nightstand. It's called The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zuvak. And it was recommended to me by one of my coaches recently. I think it speaks to, you know, us. I think she recommended it in terms of, you know, really getting in tune with what fuels our soul, what our soul wants, right? Whenever it comes time to like making decisions, going about our day-to-day activities, like really being in tune with your soul and what fuels your soul. The other book I'm reading is called Soar by Bishop T.D. Jakes. My husband actually bought me that book a few years ago. It speaks a lot about being our best selves and showing up as our best, but it speaks more towards entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Like, I think that's the underlying focus of that book. It's entrepreneurship and how to fly, how to take our big idea and to fly with it.
Love it. That speaks to the I in DIM, your intentionality. You're intentional about what it is you're reading. What is it you're feeding your soul, right?
That's right.
that'll cause you to achieve those big goals that you have for your life.
Exactly.
So, Georgia, this has been amazing.
Yes. I really enjoyed this time talking with you.
I did enjoy it too. I enjoyed the pre-discussion. I enjoyed this one. It's always good when both conversations can go well. You know what I'm saying? That means it's genuine, it's real, you know? So thank you so much for your time, Georgia. Thank you for spending time with us and for sharing your wisdom with us. We gleaned so much. I had a lot of takeaways, but the whole perceiver versus being a subject of your thoughts, how to ice your wounds so that they don't expand, right? So those are the things that really spoke to me that I'm going to take with me, that I know the listeners will take with them too. So thank you so much.
When you can't remember ice, so think about vanilla ice back in the day. Ice,
baby. Hoping no copyright issues.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We do not own the rights to that song.
We don't own it now.
I own the rights to that acronym, but not the song.
All right, there we go. Well, thank you, Georgia. Have a good rest of the evening.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Of course, I'll be seeing you at Escoviche soon. Don't worry about it.
All righty, love. Thank you.
All right.